Hey guys, welcome back to the Speaker's Edge podcast, the podcast dedicated to helping you to learn from some of the world's very best speakers and communicators so that you can learn to master your message and inspire your audience every single time you speak. I'm your host for this podcast, Roddy Galbraith. I'm thrilled you've chosen to join us again this week because over the last 6 months we've had some fantastic speakers, really world-class speakers and communicators on the show. And today's session is no different. We have an interview with the one and only Tim Elmore talking about the importance of multi-generational communication. Did you know there's 4 different generations in the workplace today and they all want something slightly different? So we're going to be listening to Tim and discussing with Tim how we deal with that. Before we get to that though, if you haven't downloaded the companion resources for the show, go to maxwellleadership.com/the Speaker's Edge. You can download the companion guide. And if you like the show, we would love it if you rate and review. That would be awesome. All right then, so we've got the baby boomers from 1946 to 1964. We've got the Gen Zers, or the baby busters from 1965 to 1982. We've got the Millennials, of course, from 1983 up to 1999, and Gen Z 2000 to around 2015. And interestingly, if you're born within 5 years of the end or the beginning of each one of these different generations, then you're a tweenie, you're an in-betweener, and so you pick up some of the character traits of each of these. Anyway, we're not going to dig into it too much now. We'll talk about it briefly at the end. For now, enjoy the interview with Tim.
Well, I'm a dinosaur. I began my career, believe it or not, in 1979. I was still finishing up my degree, but I began to teach. I was a teacher and began to work in a youth group at a church. I knew, even though I was a part of the younger generation, I love the younger generation. So all through my last 45 plus years, I feel like I've just been wanting to build that student generation. So fast forward, in 1983, I joined John Maxwell's staff at Skyline Church in San Diego, California, just fell in love. So I'd already fallen in love with kids. Now I fell in love with leadership. And over the course of the decades, my love of kids and leadership just came together. So when I launched Growing Leaders in 2003, it was really the merging of those two. How can we do what John has done for grown-ups, for business leaders, nonprofit leaders, pastors, etc.? How can we do that before these kids even get started, before they make all the mistakes we've made along the way? So real quick, one last thought. I knew that maybe they needed a different pedagogy, like we needed to deliver the content in a little bit different way. They're screenagers, aren't they? So I just decided we needed to use images, conversations, and experiences rather than just lesson plans. Yes. So that's Habitudes has been our number one tool, and it's been so fun to kind of ride the roller coaster of where that's been able to take us over the years. Yeah. So that's
tell us again. Tell us those 3 things. I realized we needed to use images. What was it?
Yeah, images, conversations, and experiences. So because they're so visual, I felt like rather than a law, which we all love John's laws of leadership, communication, teamwork, I felt that we needed to start with a picture. And because pictures are worth 1,000 words, that leads to a conversation. Now we have dialogue, not monologue, which is normally what we have in the classroom. Yeah. And the conversation usually leads to an experience, which is what I think changes our life. So we say, let's put our teaching on ice: images, conversations, and experience.
Awesome. Fantastic. So you've known John then since 1983? Did you say?
Yeah, actually met him in 1982 when I was still in college. Yeah.
Aww. And we're so lucky to have you as one of our thought leaders on the Maxwell Leadership team. It's been a real honor to see you and get to know you.
What were you doing for John back then? I'm just nosy now as to were you a pastor or a youth pastor?
Yeah, I sure was. Yeah, I sure was. So I should tell you, when we first met, I was still in college and my dad was on the board at Skyline Church. In fact, he was one of the board members that interviewed John and decided he should be our pastor. Well, Mom and Dad told me when I was away at college, when you get back for spring break, you need to meet our new pastor and his wife. My mom said, he's got a great sense of humor. That was how she described him. And that's true, is it not? Let's face it.
It certainly is, yeah.
He's a teacher and a stand-up comic at the same time.
Yeah.
So when I answered the door and John and Margaret are on the front step, I think if I remember correctly, I answered it with a Groucho Marx glasses, mustache, and eyebrows. And so I said, "Hey, I hear you got a great sense of humor, you know." And John starts laughing. I was probably 21 years old or something like that.
You got out of the people pile straight away.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So John starts laughing, and we immediately saw that even though he was much my senior, we just hit it off. And he asked me pretty soon after that, if I had an opening, would you come on staff? And I think I said, let me pray about it. Okay, you know. So anyway, in 1983, I joined his staff, and I began to work with students there. That had been my not only my specialty, but that's all I had influence over. You know, when you start, you don't have a lot of influence. So I took over the college group, and I was like 1 year older.
Right.
In fact, some of the students in the group were older than I was, because, you know, they were taking 2 or 3 years to get through college. So it was I had to navigate it with both confidence and humility, you know. Mm-hmm. Those two are great combinations in leadership. So, but it began to grow, and John began to give me more responsibility, but we've had a blast. I tell people you either thrived or you died with John Maxwell.
Right.
You either said, oh my gosh, let's change the world, or this is too much. This is too much. So, anyway,
so how old was John then? So how old was John when you were doing that? If you were just out of college? Or...
Yeah, he was in his 30s. So he would have been about 13 or 14 years older than me. Maybe he was 36 or 37. So yeah, I remember celebrating. Cool. Yeah. So that was before he was really famous. He was always a good communicator, but I was one of 3 or 4 that he personally poured into in a small cluster and one-on-one. We did messages together, created outlines, and I am so much the beneficiary of that. I could never repay him for all of that time. Yeah.
And so then he eventually left Skyline and came back east, didn't he? Is that, and then you stayed there, or you'd already moved on?
I actually left before he did. I left a year before he did to start to join a nonprofit in Denver, Colorado, that was all about mobilizing young workers, young leaders. And so a year later, John stopped at Skyline, and then in 97, he moved to Atlanta, Georgia with a whole bunch of other people. And he called me and said, would you come out and help me start this thing called Equip? So I was honored to do that. And we all converged in Atlanta, and I'm still here in Atlanta. Yeah, love the journey. Yeah.
So we were just looking for your book. We got your book somewhere. I think
it's by the bed. It's by the side of the bed, because I was brushing up on it. But since you've been a thought leader with the Maxwell Leadership Team, you released a book, and it's a fantastic book. And I think it fits the law that we're covering this week really well, because we're talking about the law of leverage. So like you're using your strengths in communication. Tell us a little bit about that book.
Yeah, sure. Well, part of my work over the years has been seeing the gap between the young and the old. I mean, when you're a teacher, when you're a leader, you just see this generation gap that started 60 years ago, but it's even bigger today. So I began to realize I need to help the older adult, or the teacher, or the business leader understand the emerging generation. That Generation Z worker that's coming in, or that millennial, or that Gen Alpha young person. So the book is called A New Kind of Diversity, helping the different generations on your team become a competitive advantage. I don't know if you guys have seen what I've seen, but I just see so many bosses who are over 45 years old just get frustrated because they don't understand these kids today. You know? And so my goal with the book is to turn their frustration into fascination. How could we draw from the strengths of this newer generation? They bring a different set of strengths. But
what do you think those strengths are?
Well, there's a number of them that come to mind immediately. Number one, 70% of high school students in America want to be an entrepreneur. In other words, they want to start something, not join something. Now, there's a number of reasons for that. They may see, as John describes, so many older leaders, sometimes very old leaders, doing something in a very antiquated way, polarizing people and dividing people. And they go, I don't want to join that. I want to start this. So not everybody, but 70%. So I think
that's a lot. Gosh.
Yeah, how can we create entrepreneurial zones on our team where we're allowing projects to feel like startups, and we're leveraging that 22-year-old that just graduated from college to be a part of that? That's going to be able to retain those young people. The other item I would say, and this is something we need to embrace, they're going to bring a high sense of agency, meaning empowerment, because they grew up on a smartphone where they think they know. In fact, sometimes they do know a lot that we don't know. They're going to come in a little bit, empowered. And sometimes it comes across as arrogant and cocky. And
you know
what I'm saying? We've all had kids that we go, you need to just eat a little.
Well, we've got teenagers, so
yes.
We're there now. Yeah.
So what I try to tell employers all the time is you're going to see this paradox. They come in with a high sense of agency and a high sense of anxiety at the very same time. And we're going to have to navigate that as leaders. But they bring so many strengths. If we can stop being furious and start getting curious about the generation. Yeah.
Are they still going to college? Do kids still want to go to college, or do they want to jump straight into entrepreneurs?
Both are happening. So their college enrollment is down. And I think it's down because two things. One, I think they go, that's a lot of money without a guarantee you're going to be able to place me in a job. And more companies are saying, I don't think we need that little certificate at the end of a college experience.
Right.
You know, if you got skill sets that help you problem solve. And we always tell people at Growing Leaders, we're trying to help kids solve problems and serve people. Solve problems. And if we can graduate that, I think employers are going to go, I want that.
Yeah.
So there's college enrollment is down. Some of them are just leaping right into, let's figure this thing out right now at 22 or even 18.
And what percentage of the workforce now is, what are the different groups and how much people are in them?
Okay, good question. We probably should have I'm sorry I didn't back up and do that first. So there are 4 or 5 generations at work today, believe it or not. And I know some people go, I don't even know what to call them, but they are real, because based on when we were shaped as young people, we bring a different worldview into the marketplace. So there are baby boomers. We've all heard about them. They're the ones born between 1946 and 1964. So John Maxwell would be a baby boomer. He was the earliest of the baby boomers. He was born in 1947. But the boomers bring lots of coaching and lots of experience. We need to seize that from them. We need to say, we need you to pour into our teammates. You have so much experience. And then along comes the Gen Xers, or the baby busters after the baby boomers. They were born 1965 to 82. They grew up in a little bit darker time. What's that? Is that you guys?
Baby busters, yeah.
Well,
I'm an old buster. I
was born in 78, so I always feel, I feel a little bit like the next generation. That's because I think I want to be younger, really.
That's right, absolutely. We're all born for that, don't we? So you're actually what social scientists would be calling a tweener. If you're 5 years at the tail end of one generation or 5 years at the beginning of another, you're going to adopt characteristics of both. I'm that way with baby boomers and Gen Xers.
Yeah.
I'm 1959, so I've got a little of both. So anyway, Xers were raised in a time that was a little bit darker, the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal, the OPEC gas crisis. So they were raised by caring adults that were a little bit more cynical before. And so Gen X grew up a little more jaded and skeptical themselves. And then along comes the Millennials. We've been talking about them forever, have we not?
Yeah, and they've taken up all the space.
Oh my gosh, yes, it's so true. Well, the Millennials are the largest generation in American history.
Oh.
Yeah, they're even bigger.
I'm taking notes here.
Okay, I noticed that. So,
and when do they fit in?
They would be like the 80s and 90s, like 83 all the way to the turn of the century. The 80s and 90s kids.
Right.
And both of my children are millennials. So the millennials are large and in charge, not unlike the baby boomers before them, but they were the first generation to be exposed to technology like we are today. So as they grew up, the cell phone grew up. As they grew up, the computer grew up. right?
Right.
So, and because they're so large, they grew up getting lots of attention. I'm stereotyping now, but weren't they the generation that grew up with trophies in their hand just for showing up on the soccer team? And told them they were awesome for putting the spoon in the dishwasher, that sort of thing. So they came in feeling pretty good about themselves. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not bad. It's just that you don't want it to be artificial. You want it to be genuine self-esteem, not mom told me I'm awesome. So without doing a thing, I'm awesome already.
Right.
And then along comes Generation Z after the millennials. Generation Z would be the kids born really from the turn of the century all the way up to about 2015. So they're in the workforce now, and they're the ones that employers are struggling the most with leading them. I just read some data that was, it stopped me in my tracks. 1 out of 5 employers said they fired a Gen Z member within the first 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
1 out of 5. Now that's troublesome to me. Either the Gen Z is not ready or the employer's not feeling very like they want to adapt a little bit. So I think the answer is we got to meet in the middle. They represent the future, do they not? We may not like everything about them, but where they're going, that's where the world's going.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we bring some experience. So I want to share something with you that I've not shared publicly yet, but I just want to toss it out there. I believe one of the toughest challenges that we must get through is the age of authority is dropping. The age of maturity is rising. So in other words, kids bring a great sense of authority, way more than I brought. In fact, when I came into the workforce, you just respected your elders and you listened to what they say because they got 3 decades of experience. Well, now these kids come in a little bombastic because they know a bunch, know, but the age of emotional maturity or social maturity is actually going up. I have lost count of the number of university deans that have said 26 is the new 18. Meaning,
wow.
And we've all heard stories of they're not leaving the house or whatever. So we've got to somehow both listen and coach. So I'll stop there, but we've got to figure this thing out for sure.
Beautiful. How about communicating with each of them then? How do they like to be spoken to? How do they like to be communicated with?
Okay, good question. Well, there are some differences, are there?
Right.
So the boomers would be ones that even though they're a little older, they say, give me the bottom line. I mean, talking to John Maxwell, I know this guy wants the bottom line. Do not around. Is that right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So Xers would say, keep it real. Don't tell me everything's wonderful. Just give me the bad and the good, that sort of thing. Millennials would say, I hate to speak for everybody. We're all individual personalities.
But it is useful.
Yeah. Good. So millennials would say, give me hope and, show me, how we can do this and let me weigh in. They would say, make it interactive.
Right.
And think about the millennials, I better not just be dogmatic and just download a bunch of content. I better make this interactive. Gen Z, their attention spans are much, much shorter than previous generations. That's no shock. But think about this. Attention spans for young people in the year 2000 were 12 seconds. Now, that doesn't mean they can't pay attention to anything longer than 12 seconds. That just means if you don't keep it engaging, 12 seconds later, they're going to be looking somewhere else,
Yeah.
So today, they're 8 seconds. So when a Gen Zer comes onto the workforce, that employer is up against Netflix, YouTube, TikTok. Good luck with that, boss.
Yeah.
But here's one thing that might be counterintuitive. Even though Generation Z is much more comfortable on a screen, that's their natural habitat. They were the generation that, when surveyed, were the first ones that said, I want to be back in the office after the pandemic and want to talk face to face. So even though they're not as good face to face as Xers and boomers, they go, I know I need to build social capital. I know I need to grow in my skill sets there. They're very, very aware that they're not good and where they need to get better. And that's where I take courage. I love this young generation. They will change the world rapidly, but we've got to know how to communicate with them. Yeah.
I think that when I look at our 18-year-old daughter, I feel very hopeful about the future. I
look
think
at the boys though, and it's less hopeful.
No, she's just very smart and aware and mature, much more than I was at that age.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could literally talk to you, but we're already taking too much of your time. I would like to ask you what you think your biggest strength is and how you've leveraged it. If I was to have a guess, I would say...
Well, don't help him.
Well, I'm not going to help you, but I just want to know, right.
Well,
you seem very collaborative to me, which I think is so important for a leader and a communicator. But anyway, you tell us what you think your greatest strength is.
Oh, you're very kind. I want to take you with me where I go to remind me. I would say that I am showing up. Well, I do love communication. So I think my strength falls under the umbrella of simplifying content, clarifying, and then hopefully communicating in a way that an audience might understand it. So brain research from Dr. Raymond Cattell out of the UK says that in the first 40 years, our brains specialize in fluid intelligence. The second 40 years, they specialize in crystallized intelligence, which is all about summarizing and clarifying. So we're very adaptive in the first 40. We're very much, let me collect this data and find a way to really help everybody else get it quickly. That's why older professors in college sometimes get higher marks, because they already know, let me bottom line this for you right here. Yes. So I'm hoping that's my strength. And I love the laws of communication, by the way. They're so helpful.
Oh, I know.
And I think John really embodies what he's saying there in that book for sure.
So there you go. Now you know all about the different generations in the workplace. Tim Elmore, of course, is one of the thought leaders at the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. And if you're interested in finding out what it means to be a member of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team, if you're interested in coaching, speaking, training, leadership, career development, all of those really, particularly speaking, this is a speaking podcast, so I tend to major on the speaking. If you're interested in developing your speaking, it really is a no-brainer. Since 2010, I've been working with John Maxwell on the Maxwell method of speaking. There's nearly 60,000 people that have gone before you, so you won't be the first in the program if you decide to join us. And now in, I think, 168 different countries around the world. If you're interested in developing your speaking, there's no one better to model than John Maxwell. There's no better system than the Maxwell method of speaking, and there's nowhere better to learn that than as a Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. So check it out. It's no obligation, so it's a no-brainer really. Simply go to maxwellleadership.com/speak. So that's it for this week. Don't forget to download our companion guide. Go to maxwellleadership.com/The Speaker's Edge. I'll see you next week. And don't forget, communication is absolutely a learnable skill, and it's worth it. It really is, so that you can learn to master your message and inspire your audience every single time you speak. I'll see you soon. Thanks for listening today. Take care. Bye-bye. God bless.